Hi, welcome once again to Growth is Personal Podcast, your number one podcast for personal growth, business growth, and career growth. Um, Thank you for every one of you who have listened to this podcast on Spotify, on YouTube. Recently, we became the top 10 podcast for personal development in Canada. So that is exciting. So thank you for being a part of this podcast community. Today, we're going to be having a phenomenal guest again. Her name is Molly Rose Speed. I mean, that name alone tells you that 2025, we have to walk at the speed of light. I'm so excited of this conversation because I think it's something that, I've been seeing a lot of conversations around people looking to find alternative means to wealth building. People looking to find freedom because they no longer want to work and retire at 65 and then have to live their dream life. They want to begin to live life right now and enjoy life, as they grow. So I'm excited for the conversation we're going to be having because Molly is the right person to talk about, how you can leverage your skill, your expertise, and grow something on the side. Even if you're a 9 to 5 or if you're an entrepreneur, how can you leverage what you know and grow your business?
Hi, my name is Emeka Nwarulor and welcome to Growth is Personal. Each week, I share insights and strategies that will equip you to accelerate your personal and professional growth and bring you conversations that will empower you to thrive in life, career, and business.
So Molly, thank you for being a part of today's conversation. Please give us a little bit of who you are to our audience.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be doing this interview and share my knowledge with all the listeners. Real quick corporate America, I live in the States 13 years ago and became what we all know as a virtual assistant. But at the time, that wasn't even on my radar. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. I didn't know I could get paid outside of a job to make money. Had no idea. And over 13 years, I've learned everything under the sun about online business, outsourcing, automation, making money when you sleep, and helping others to do that. So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. But I want to go back to, because when I have conversations like this, I like to go back to how it all started and what do we need to know about your journey to where you are today, and what are the mindsets that you had to develop to be in this position?
Yeah, I think when I look back at, I was 25 when I quit my corporate job, and that's not normal. And I don't like risk. I'm probably the most risk adverse person you'll ever meet. Like, my money is in the most safe place in the stock market or in my savings account ever, right? That's right. Me. So for me to do this, it was definitely a moment of, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to take this leap and leave my corporate secure job where I was probably going to have a great career in healthcare. That's the industry I was in for finance. And a lot of it was just believing that everything was going to be okay and trusting that I had the skills and the wherewithal to go and do something better, because I wanted to travel. I didn't want 10 days of vacation. That's what we get down here,
Right.
And I just wanted a bigger life. And I'm so proud of myself for recognizing that at a young age.
Yeah, that's a pretty young age, 25 to, and we have a lot of 20s. I think the last time we checked, we even had an 18-year-olds listen to this podcast. So that's a motivation for people in that age now. That you are right on the. It's time for you to realize that it's not too early. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I have the time," or "I'm too young." No, that's not an excuse right now. As long as you have the realization that life can be more, just go all in and do what you can, right? So let's talk about online business and how let's break down what automation is all about. Like, at what point do we realize that we have to set up automation? Because one thing I realized is business can become another task. And one of the reasons why a lot of people run away from online entrepreneurship is that I don't want to do another work. Like, I don't want to have another job, So break down what automation truly means, in the context of modern business?
Yeah. So to frame this, I like to say when we're business owners or entrepreneurs and we're starting our business, we do it for a certain reason. There's a service we want to provide, or maybe we're an online coach. We have a product we're selling. We have a book we're trying to market. We're a speaker, whatever it is. And you start your business, you're all excited, you get things going, and then you realize you have to wear 27 hats. You have to do billing, invoicing, marketing, taxes, make a website, do your social media, do your email marketing. I could go on 27 plus things that we have to do to run our businesses. And you realize really quickly that you don't want to be doing those things. And so what I always say is there's probably 9 ways to automate just about anything, or you can outsource it to someone for far lesser cost than your time is probably going to end up being more worth. So automation at its core is automating even the small things that we do on a regular basis through technology, systems, software, or others. I know that that's not common, but I like to bring that in because you can kind of have the relief of automation through outsourcing too.
Outsourcing. Yeah, that's so true. And I see how big of a change it makes in your business and even your personal life when you automate, even as little as I remember back then when I started this podcast, when I was asking around and people would say, oh, how do you schedule your guest? And some people say, oh, I have to, we go back and forth emails to pick a time. I'm like, no, there has to be a better way, right? So I found this tool. All I have to do is just send a link and the pick a time that works for them and we're good to go. And everything just flows, the emails and everything just goes, So I think, it's a mindset shift that has to happen, right? For people to embrace the fact that automation is something that they should incorporate into their business. So if for a small business owner or someone who is just starting out in entrepreneurship, what are the 4 steps they should take when considering automation?
Yes. So let's go with the theme of the repetitive tasks, right? The thing that we do over and over and over again. So when I work with business owners, I say, to start identifying these things, maybe take a week and write down all the things you do in a day. Just have a little notepad and start writing the things down. And then you're going to start to see themes like I'm constantly replying with this same email. Let's create a template. It's a click of a button from then on. You brought up a great one about online scheduling. The amount of time wasted for all scheduling of meetings should be done with Acuity or Calendly, or you name one of the 20 tools that we can do online scheduling with. Right. So there's a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be a software that you go buy. I just mentioned a template that you just have at the ready, or you have a proposal. Maybe if you're always sending proposals in your business, template that as best you can, and then it's plug and play on what they're offering, what you're offering to somebody. We can automate social media scheduling, right? I don't know a business owner that enjoys social media. I really don't, including myself. So why not at the beginning of the month, create your content calendar, load it into something like Planoly, and then watch it and engage with your audience instead of having to come up with this content every day. So there's just some hot hitters right there of things that we can be doing.
Right. And I think, where you started from was the part of really breaking down what it is that you do in your business, because I think where people miss it a lot is they go for all these tools, but they don't yet understand what exactly goes on in the business. So I think the first thing is to understand what exactly do I do on a day-to-day, write it down, and then begin to break it down. I know back then when I used to work in HR, we used to have this thing called SOP, where we have to develop a standard operating procedure such that anyone who comes into that business or that unit or department will be able to run without asking for help. So I think first is to get a sense of what exactly you do, and then begin to find the tools. Now, when you talk about tools, what should be the approach to the kind of tools that you should go for when you're trying to automate your business? Is it cost? Is it flexibility? What exactly should we be looking at?
Yeah. And I think, so you brought up cost. I think something that people might have a misconception on is that automating is expensive. And there are so many tools out there that, doing some research, you can find email marketing tools, which are an automated way of sending marketing emails that cost $10 a month, and there's some that cost $300 a month. So I think there's tools out there for everything, and probably 10 tools for each task that we're trying to do. But I think starting small with what the most important thing is. So when you're working on that list that you have all these things that you do, what's the big hitter that keeps coming up? And just start with one thing and get comfortable and learn it and automate with that specific tool or resource that's going to get that off of your plate.
Right. So what are the common misconceptions you've come across in your work that people have to overcome to be able to embrace automation?
Yeah. Well, we already said misconception on it's too expensive, which it's not. But also there's that it's too difficult to implement. I hear, I don't do technology, I can't figure this out. But these companies that have come up with these tools have made it so easy. There's a video for everything. And I think that that's a super important thing to do. And the other thing, and I even find myself doing this, is, that's just going to take too much time to get it set up. I'm just going to do it. I'll just send the email to get this scheduled, or I'll just continue to send the same email to the 20 people that reach out to me, instead of just taking a beat and taking a moment to get things set up. That'll save you so much time down the road. So I see that a lot as well.
Okay. Now you brought up something around, email. I want to take you on that. A lot of times I'll hear people say things like, I want to have a personal touch to, the client I work with. And I feel automation will sound a little bit more robotic and, kind of template. So at what point do you have to then, make it, what do you say to that person who feels like automation is too robotic for them? They want to have a personal touch to every conversation they have with their client. What would you say to that?
I say, so if we're just talking about emailing clients, if you use Google, there's a template, Google it and look it up. Everyone should go home and do that if you take one thing from this. But have that as a starter and then personalize it with 1 or 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be a fully pre-written email every single time, or new email written every single time. Email marketing, I'm going to just say some tough love. I think if you're doing email marketing and you want to make it personal every time, you gotta get over that one.
Right.
Email marketing is extremely important. I'm talking about loading emails into a system that auto sells your product or your services. But there's a lot of tools now where we can use the name field in multiple parts of the email to kind of make it personal. This is a different marketing conversation, but it kind of gets into knowing who your ideal market is, and you're writing your emails so well to them that it sounds personal, right?
Right.
So I think that's just some of the things we have to do or get over.
Okay. Can you share some tools for someone who is, a coaching, who's a coach and, has a online coaching business? What are some of the, tools that you can, automation tools that they can begin to leverage that has been helpful to your clients? Yeah.
My number one software that I use and work in every single day for multiple clients is a software called Kajabi. It's an all-in-one platform. And I love it because when I say all-in-one, just like wearing 27 hats, when we started our business 5-7 years ago, if you did, you had to connect 10 different softwares to get things to work. You had to have a WordPress with your email marketing system integrated, with your scheduling system, with your courses on a different platform, and so on. Where these new all-in-one platforms, so it's not so new, but the ones that are replacing everything else, do everything for you under one membership that you pay every month, one subscription. And it does everything from host your courses to transact your payments, host your website, host your podcast. It does coaching calls within it. It does your email marketing. It's your CRM system, all under one platform. So that's my biggest recommendation. There's a few out there. That's my go-to. And then more simple things, if someone isn't looking for something, if you're a coach, having a system maybe like a Dubsado or a 17 Hats, those are systems that handle invoicing and proposals and contracts and onboarding of your clients through emails and takes payment. So a few things there that people could check out.
Right. I've heard a lot about Kajabi. I even had a guest who came on the podcast who was featured on Kajabi. I think he did some, I think there's a way you do sales and stuff that Kajabi kind of features you based on your. So he
Yeah.
was featured some time ago. So he was on the podcast and he spoke a lot about Kajabi. So yeah, that's a great tool, I believe. Now, what are the biggest challenges business face when implementing automation, and how can they overcome them?
I think resistance to change is probably important. If you've been running your business a certain way for so many years, it's hard to change it, and trust that something outside of you is going to automate and deliver things. I remember when I was setting up some of my first automations, I'd go in and check it, make sure it's right. I'm an error girl sometimes. So I'm like, oh, I
Right.
didn't the right words, something was spelled wrong and it went out, so you have to check and verify your automation. But I think that resistance to change is really important. And then I'd say another challenge is that initial setup, right? Taking that time, learning a new tool, and then getting it set up for your business. It's takes you out of your normal routine. You're, just checking your boxes for the day. But I think it can really change the way people work in the future.
Sure.
Mhm.
Have there been any resistance from the client side? As a coach, implementing your automation, what are the resistance or what are the challenges you've faced with clients, and when it comes to automation?
Cost, I think, is something. If they don't want to invest at all in outside tools, they want to just bootstrap. That's something to consider. I think when coaches specifically are working with automation, it's a trust thing, kind of like what I mentioned. Or maybe they're not tech savvy at all, so they just can't even get themselves to a point where they're going to use an online scheduler, right? That's a dream for a coach, especially if you're doing one-on-one.
Right.
They commit to just doing the emails and having a paper planner, and they have to kind of get over that hump and accept that they need to learn the new way of doing things, because it's not only making your life easier, but it's making your customer's life a lot easier if they can just go on and online schedule, or they know they're going to get the communication that they need from you because it's already automated. You're never going to miss a beat, right? It just makes you a much more professional service provider.
Right. Now, when you were talking, something came to my mind around the client side. Have you had a case where the clients have to incur some kind of cost based on the services that you render as a coach, for example? Like,
You're
apart
asking,
from the fee of working with you, do they also have to invest in those tools as well?
the automation tools?
Yes.
Yeah. So, the cost of the actual tool that's being implemented would be on the provider or the customer, right? That's using it, which is the
Right.
coach. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about automations from a corporate standpoint. How does that impact employees and company culture? Because we've seen people who who kind of are stuck in the old way. They're more comfortable in the old way, and then when you bring in a new tool, you say, "Oh my goodness, this is something I have to learn." How does that impact the culture of the organization when employers begin to introduce automation?
Yeah, I've seen this, especially in the older demographic of corporations. And I think it starts with how it's delivered by leadership, right? You got to get their buy-in and get them excited about it. I think the things that automation and AI that's automation are doing in corporations really well is kind of getting rid of those mundane tasks that admins shouldn't be spending their time. Like, use your brain power for more creative outlets. Yeah. So you kind of have to just position it as an exciting thing. This isn't replacing you. This isn't replacing your job. But let's look at what are some creative things you've always wanted to do but never had time to do, and kind of up level them a little bit. So I think that's what it's able to do. Yeah.
Okay. Great response. Now, when automation is implemented, how can we then measure the success of an automation in a business? Like, how do you measure? I know some of these platforms would have the metrics and stuff, how they measure growth. So give us an insight into what does it mean for success in those automations platform? How do they measure success?
Yes. So I think depending upon what you're implementing into your business, it's important to kind of take stock. This is my annual revenue. This is how many customers I have. This is how much time I'm spending on my business or in my business, better. And then once you implement some of the resources, unless you have something like a Kajabi that's tracking all of this for you, do that for yourself and just see through automation, are your conversion rates going up? Are you closing more deals? That means your money is going to go up and you're getting more customers. And are you doing that without spending so much time on the business, on sales calls maybe, or working on sending the invoice that they need to pay to become your customer, or scheduling them? Just you'll feel it probably more than anything with the time that you'll have back. But then being able to track your revenue and your customer intake or uptick, I think that's what you would see the most. Okay.
So at what point should people start implementing automation? Like, I feel like if you're starting a business for a start, should you hit a certain amount of revenue for you to implement automation, or should you get automation from the get-go? What do you think about that?
I think it's really important. I say this even before someone hires a virtual assistant too. You have to know how your business operates, how your customer responds, how you sell to your customer, how your customer buys from you before you automate anything. I think it's really important to go through the motions before you automate things, because you need to know how the verbiage should be. Or maybe if we're doing online scheduling, for an example, really speaking to coaches here, what are the times of days that clients are really picking, so you can have those windows available. You might lose a customer if you're not offering that type of time frame for them. You got to understand how your revenue is coming in and how you're earning that through messaging, scheduling, and the process of getting someone onboarded.
Right. So I've seen a lot of on LinkedIn more, and I see a lot of virtual assistants, and sometimes they even reach out to me, and with their approach, and they can do this and they can do that. How best should virtual assistant market themselves in a way that doesn't look like they're trying to just sell? Like, what has been your approach or strategy to get business as a virtual assistant?
So I'll say this in twofold with AI as well, because I get a lot of conversations about why would I hire an assistant when I can just use AI? Right. But at the end of the day, you need someone who works with the AI and sets it up and verifies it and makes sure it's all right inside your business. At least that's how we are today. Right. So I believe that a virtual assistant is the first hire any business owner should make, online business owner, because they're a jack of all trades. They're one of those people that can take those 27 hats and probably run with several of them, as opposed to just hiring your marketing assistant and doing your social media, or just hiring your website designer. Have someone that can do several things for you to free up your time. And by positioning services that way as an assistant, it's very easy to convince a business owner that you have value and that you can really, really support them. And it comes down to, I can help you have more time freedom, I can help you make more money, and I can help you do what you like to do in your business versus all the things that you don't want to be doing.
Right. Yeah. What are the metrics that a virtual assistant should have to be able to get buy-in? Like, I mean, you can say, you can say that you can save me time, you can make me more money, but what are the metrics that a virtual assistant should have as a proof of, a proof of concept or something like that for me to get buy-in? What would you say?
That a virtual assistant would market themselves with? Is that what kind of?
Yeah. Like, for example, if you have, someone who helps you with SEO, marketing and stuff, they will tell you that, okay, for this client, I was able to move their subscribers from 1,000 to 20,000, right? So what would a virtual assistant show as?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. If you're looking to hire a virtual assistant, make sure you vet them very well. There's a lot of inexperienced people in the marketplace.
Right.
So getting proof of their success stories. What have you done in the past? Give me all the software that you know and have mastered. That's a super important thing to ask. But having them prove, hey, I took my client from this website to this website. Look at the difference, and having that story. Or because I implemented all of these booking systems and onboarding systems for my coaching client, they went from 2 clients to 10 clients and I increased revenue, for example. These are all success stories that good virtual assistants should have. So that's a really good thing to be asking and checking.
Yeah, because I mean, I see, and like I said, a lot of women on this podcast, I've seen some of them, I've met some of them personally, and I see some who are also virtual assistant, and they do a lot of courses and training and all of that. But one of the things they struggle with is getting business, like getting people to buy in, because it's a tough business to sell. I mean, I must tell you, like, because sometimes you're dealing with non-tangibles, right? Some are tangible if you can really show it. So I'm really, keen on how can they really position themselves as an expert in their field.
Yeah. So I run an agency for VA, so I'm very well aware of all of this. And I actually hate the term virtual assistant, unless you really are a new assistant. So you want to, if you're a VA marketing yourself, almost throw that term out. It's a great buzzword to get in the door. I have a company called Virtual Assistant Management for a reason. But once we get a client, a lead, it's all about operations. It's all about, we are your operations experts. We know exactly how to make you efficient. We're going to come in and fix things. We're going to automate things. We're going to streamline things. And you got to really step into some higher shoes, because you are the right hand to a business owner. 9 times out of 10, you're the first hire. They're scared. You're coming in to their baby that they've probably gotten off the ground over the past 2 to 3 years. So you have to really approach it like you know what you're talking about, and there's a reason why they're investing in you. And the best virtual assistant entrepreneur relationships that I find, they grow together and they last years. The client, the entrepreneur wins and the VA wins at the same time. You're growing this business together.
That's a great way to put it, because I think positioning is really important. Like changing because when you set up operations expert, I see clearly that makes sense. It's almost like process reengineering, like people who will come and take the process you're doing and say, hey, we can make it better, we can make it efficient, we can make it faster and stuff like that. But it brings me to another question around, it came to my mind while you were speaking around this process being an operations expert. Now, how would then, so for a virtual assistant, because I really want to nail this for someone who is going to be watching and listening to this now, do they have to have, what skill, apart from technical skills that they have to have, what are the kind of skill they should develop to be able to, be in a position to help a business owner? Like, what are the skill they should have? Either it could be soft skill, but what are the most important? If you get to label 3 top skills of operations experts, I want to use that as a virtual assistant should have. What would you say?
So I have 3 things I like to share. The first, I'm stealing from Marie Forleo, who's one of the best business coaches online. She always says the ability to figure it out. So if you're supporting someone's business and they ask you how to do something, they probably don't know how to do it, because they started their business to be a coach. They didn't start their business to run all the things that we're talking about. So Google it, YouTube it, ask your network, figure it out before going back to the business owner and saying, hey, I don't understand what where we're going with this. Let's put our heads together, right? I think that's extremely important. I think something that assistants are missing, or operations experts are missing, is understanding how their client's business operates. How do they earn revenue? Where do they get their customers? And how do they close and make the money? Because a business isn't a business unless you're earning revenue and making money, right? The way the service is provided is usually on the client. So those are the things that they can step in and help with and automate and make it a dream, right? Process improvement there. And then this kind of goes with it, but I think anywhere inside a business that you can add efficiency and make things better without even asking. So what I love to see is you have your client assistant call on a Monday, and maybe on Friday, either you're meeting by phone or you're sending an email of all the things you did this week that they didn't even ask you to do. Hey, I noticed some typos here, fixed it. You don't need to ask permission. Have the autonomy and build that relationship with a client. Don't walk in and have autonomy from day one. You got to get them to trust you.
Right.
But start running the business as if it's yours, and it's great.
Great. So I'm going to go to the online coach or online business owner now. What does it look like on a day-to-day working with a operations expert or virtual assistant?
What should it look like? People might laugh if they're. So I believe that you should have a face-to-face Zoom meeting with your assistant or operations manager by Tuesday at noon. I think that's extremely important. Don't just task someone willy-nilly without having that personal relationship. It can be 15 minutes a week. And I think that that's extremely important. And use something like Asana or Monday. These are project management systems that you task someone with and have clear instructions, like your expectation of what this is, when it's done, any questions need to be answered on that first call, and the deadline and the owner, right? And recognize, I'm going a little off topic, but I'll come back around. Recognize that if there's anything that you're asking your assistant to do that requires you, for example, you're posting a blog. This is kind of dated, but you're posting a YouTube video. You need to have that video done before they can do X, Y, and Z. So recognize you're not going to give it to them on Friday morning. That's not right. So you got to really think through your tasks for the week, and then follow up and verify for as long as it takes to understand that that's what you need to be doing. So the idea is that the business owner, it takes some time, but ends up in their zone of genius, right? And maybe 20% of their work is the stuff that they really don't want to be doing. So if you're earning money hourly coaching clients, you need to be doing that as much as possible. And the rest should be done by another party, another assistant, an automation tool, whatever that is. And that's kind of the goal. Like get back to why you started your business in the first place and have someone else who's an expert handle the rest.
How should an online coach be thinking about incorporating the cost or the fee of a VA or operations manager into their day-to-day, like into their revenue? Like how does that work?
Yes. So I like the term fractional assistant, right? You don't have to hire someone full-time, which I think is a common, although odd, misconception. So you can start with 5 hours a week, and you'll quickly see 20 hours a month being outsourced, how much of a relief and how things are starting to get better and better if you're clear about what you want them to be doing. So I think that's important. But when they free up time from you, from the things that kept you from doing the client work, it's important that if the reason you're hiring a virtual assistant is so you can make more money and offset the cost,
right?
It's important that you use that time then on client-facing activities from a coaching perspective. So you're adding 2 extra coaching sessions a week to your plate to cover the cost. I find sometimes relationships don't work out because the business owner's like, I'm not making any more money, but I have someone that I'm outsourcing. Well, you didn't change your workload. You didn't add more clients to your plate. You kept that stagnant, right? So you need to replace your time that you're outsourcing with revenue generating tasks. And that's extremely important.
That's very important. Can you outsource revenue or marketing to operations expert? Like can you hire virtual assistants to be the ones that bring in the business, or are they just solely on operations?
You can you can find assistants that will do outbound marketing for you. There's assistants that do social media, they'll do lead gen, they'll get you on podcasts like this. All those little seeds get you more clients, more exposure. It's harder to measure, but yeah, you can outsource things like that.
That's awesome. Now, looking at the future of business automation, what do you see? What's the trend, or what do you see the future of business automation going? Like, what do you see in the next 5 years? No, 5 years is too far. So in the next 2 years, what do you see business automation going to?
I think we said AI once already, I think maybe twice. I think more and more, if we're not willing to work with AI as assistants, as business owners, we're going to quickly fall behind. And so I think that's, especially in 2 years, I don't know what's going to happen, but what I tell my assistants on my team is, because the fear of we're being replaced, we're never going to get jobs again. It's like, nope, the ones that learn how to work with it and master it are the ones that are going to be invaluable.
Right.
Because you just double your time and you can charge the client for half, right? And you can serve so many more people. And so that's what I think is really going to make a difference. It's just going to be a lot more efficient. Everything's going to be faster. But you also brought up a good point earlier in our conversation. And I think this is important for coaches. It's certainly important for me, is you got to keep that personal touch, right? I think we're all going to get sick of talking to chatbots.
Yes.
So you got to work that into your business. And I think that's a great place for an assistant to support, being your customer support manager that, can call on their, send the birthday card and whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Something came to my mind while you were talking, and that's this word: strategy is synergy. I don't know where that came from, but I think it's really important now that people realize that one of the best strategy you can have is synergy. And that synergy is knowing who you vibe with, who can make your business grow, who you can bring on your team, how to build those relationships. I think it's really important, because with the rise of AI, those who are going to stand out, and not just those who are relying on AI, but those who are able to synergize with people who can then drive that AI. So strategy is synergy. I'm
I love that. I did too. I'm like, make a social media post.
Yeah, I don't know where you got that from, but yeah, it just came to my mind, because when you're talking about that personal touch, I think it's really important. And I think from that standpoint as well, like even a podcast, right? The ones who are able to build that synergy, who are able to build those relationships, are the ones who are going to grow in their podcast. So thank you for sharing that. Now let's go to, for those who are going to be listening today, what actionable step can they take right now after listening to this podcast to run with it?
Okay. I don't want to give too much, so I want to take us back to, I think it's all about getting clear on what it is you need to automate. So it's the same exercise I put people through when they decide that they need to hire an assistant. It's truly identifying everything that you do in a day, a week, a month, depending on how much time you spend in your business. Sometimes this exercise can take a month, but just start writing down. You can probably do it without even doing your day, all the things that you do, and then circling only the things that you have to do, and then start prioritizing what gets outsourced, what gets automated, and one by one, just start to get things off your plate.
Right. That's awesome. All right, so we'll go to the final 3 questions that I asked my guest. I don't reveal the correct. I put it's on the speed, and most people have found this part to be quite interesting, because like you don't get to know the questions. So first question is, what do you know about creating time freedom that you wish you knew 5 years ago?
What do I know? I know that without a doubt, I don't have to be the one that does everything. And that goes for my home, my personal life, and my business life, because I've tasted what it feels like to hire others to do things that I shouldn't be doing. And I feel like I'm really speaking to women here, because I think we feel guilty, like hiring the cleaning lady or having the nanny or automating or having an assistant do something. I'm my worst client probably with my assistant. I'm so like, oh, it's okay, get to it when you need to get to it. But by having those systems in place, or having those people that take care even of your personal life, you can do such greater work and have such a bigger impact. And I wish I would have stepped into that for myself. I did it for my clients 5 years ago, but I didn't do it for myself.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really important to reflect on, especially even for online business owners, people who run businesses. We can get so occupied with the doing of the business that we forget about living. Like it's almost like we don't have a life. We're trying to get new business, we're trying to sell, and we're not living. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. What book have transformed your mindset? And what are the key lessons, or what is one key lesson you learned from the book?
I feel like I thought this would be a question.
I can see, it looks like I saw Maxwell book there.
Yeah, I have several. I'm gonna go with Clarity by Jamie Smart. It's a book that doesn't come up very often. And it really is about, this is just basically what the title says, but it really is about the power, and it helps you walk through getting crystal clear on what it is you want to do, how you want to do it. And this could be in any part of your life, and the power of what happens when you're clear. So if you think about, I bet you there's several of us, including myself, I don't think I'm crystal clear on what it is I do every day, right? I play in a lot of cookie jars, and I don't think that that's the best place to be. So kind of reassessing that for yourself, especially as it's the new year, like, what do we do? Why do we do it? What's taking this time away from our relationships and our family? And is it worth it?
Right.
That's super important.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. Clarity. I think it's something that we not that we run away from it, because it looks like it's a hard walk.
Yeah.
It looks like clarity is a deep walk, and most people run away from it. And something I try to tell myself from time to time, and also people who are close to me, that we spend a lot of time doing, and we don't spend a lot of time living, because we're not clear of what exactly we want out of life. What exactly do we want to be doing with our lives, and what kind of impact we want to make? So I think that book, Clarity, is something that I would write down, and I should get it. Thank you so much for sharing that. The last question: what is the most unconventional piece of advice you've received that turned out to be incredibly valuable?
Yes. So it's a quote that I say, I'm sure I heard it from someone, but I coined it. Create a career around your life, not a life around your career. And that goes for really heavily for corporate. But us as business owners, that's why I would say 9 times out of 10 took the leap out of the conventional work force, so that we can live these big, beautiful lives. But if we've just replaced our jobs with another job, that now we're our own boss, but we're working even more, what is that? So create a career around your life, not a life around your career.
Yeah. And I think it's so important. I remember when I came into Canada, one of the mentor I had, she said to me, because a lot of times people come to different provinces and they want to just move to a bigger province. She said to me, one advice said, make sure that you don't make decisions around your business or job, or where you live. No, she said, make sure that you don't make decisions around where you live or your lifestyle around your business. Like, don't make life decisions based on your business. So because job can come and go, but because of the job you're moving here, make sure that you make that decision based on what life you want to create, what kind of lifestyle you want to live, and then let that business or career revolve around it. And that was a very good advice, because I see people come, different places, for example, here, and they move away. Oh, this place is so boring. I'm like, is that what it's all about? Like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? So you can choose to say, I want to be, for example, where you are in Florida, and because you enjoy life there. And someone will say, oh, Florida might be this, that, but the life you want to create for your family, and you then create business around it. So Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a conventional one, but it's incredibly valuable. Thank you so much for being on the show, Molly. It's been a pleasure having this conversation. Now, if people were going to contact you, reach out, want to, have a conversation around what you do, what's the best platform to reach out?
Yep. So mollyrosespeed.com is my website, and you can link to everything we talked about here. Virtual Assistant Management is our placementagency.com. And then I'm on Instagram, Molly Rose Speed. So
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll have the descriptions on the show notes. So thank you for being on the show today. It was a pleasure having you. Hopefully next time we invite you again, we'll have more interesting conversations.
Right.
And to those who are watching on YouTube, please leave a comment. What you learned about from today's episode? What are your questions? If you have questions for Molly, please leave it elsewhere as well. If you listen on Spotify, please also ask the questions or just tell us what you think about today's episode. Until you come away in the next episode, stay blessed and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you love this episode, share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episode, and give us a rating. This will help our podcast get more visibility to those who don't know about this podcast. Remember, your growth is personal. No one is responsible for your personal growth but you. Stay blessed.